by the time you mount a play, everyone in the other side of the production is already gone, it's already set, but to have everyone there like that with us, and everyone's, to use Matty's term earlier, doing the dance, it was just so beautiful. And coming from the theater, it was like, wow. I mean, I was a bit jealous because I didn't have as much to do. And I was like, well, just like watching this beauty happen in front of my eyes was just, it was kind of emotional for me, in a whole lot of ways, just like watching them and watching how this whole thing happened. It just reminded me of all that time,
Yeah. Like the David Attenborough, your voice just carried us.
Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm Jim Halterman from TV Guide Magazine. Now it is my pleasure to introduce the cast of The Bear, who are nominated for Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Comedy Series this year, as well as an Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Comedy nomination for Jeremy Allen White. So we're going to jump right in and talk about the show, which was a big favorite of mine last year. We're going to introduce Ebon Moss-Bachrach, who plays Richie. Hey, Ebon.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Ayo Edebiri, who plays Sydney.
Hello.
Hi, Ayo. Hi. Lionel Boyce, who plays Marcus. Hey, Lionel.
Hi.
Liza Colón-Zayas, who plays Tina.
Hi.
Matty Matheson, who plays Neil. Hey, Matty.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Edwin Lee Gibson, who plays Ebra. Good to see everybody.
Peace. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited to talk to you guys. After we talked at TCA a couple of weeks ago, I went back and watched the whole series again and just fell in love with some of it. So I'm glad it's all very fresh in my mind. And I know you guys are about to go shooting season 2. So I won't grill you on season 2, but let's talk about season 1. Watching the show, one of the first things actually I'm going to start with just your first reactions of the show. When you first got the script, before you even started shooting, what did you make of this show? In your head and in your character. Ebon, let me start with you. What were your first impressions?
Well, I had strong first impressions. It was not a script that really was open to too much interpretation. It wasn't loaded with pauses and leaving a lot of space for interpretation. It was like a very strong piece of writing with strong characters, with strong points of view. So it kind of, it really like, I don't know, like the old cliche, like it did really jump off the page for me. I felt like a lot of these characters were really fully expressed, strong, bright colors. They were loud, and so I felt like, just oftentimes I don't have this experience, but just from reading the script, I felt like I got a real understanding of what the show would be like.
Liza, what were your impressions about Tina right off the bat?
She's a force to be reckoned with. We don't know a lot about her. I didn't know a lot about her, but it was fine. I feel like we learn more about Tina with, she'll let you in what you really need to know. And so I think the mystery is okay. She has, I feel like, there's a million reasons for why she carries herself the way she does, and they're legitimate. Everything's changing, and as we see throughout the show, for her in her life, her family is at risk. Her maid family is at risk, and she's at risk of losing everything and starting over. At a time and when it's not easy for anyone to start something new. So. I understood why she felt, she was defensive, and, we don't know where, at this point, she doesn't know where she stands. She doesn't know really where Sydney stands, or, is it out with the old and with the new? There's a lot at risk. So even without having to say all that, everything, the circumstances were clear to me underneath why that's happening.
Yeah. And Ayo, Sydney is kind of like us. She's coming into this world as we are in the first episode. Did you feel like you understood her right off the bat? And this kind of goes for all of you, but did you feel like you understood your character pretty early on, or did it take some time to really kind of sink in? But Ayo, go ahead and you.
Oh, yeah. I think it always kind of takes time, even when you do have that understanding. Like, I feel like it's always like the last day where you're like, oh, I get what I should have been doing the whole time. But that's maybe just, I don't know. That's my but I think part of what Eben said was so true, where it's, and Liza too, like even in the mysteries and the murkiness, like the sense of these people and who they were was so clear. And I think for Sydney, because her work life is such a part of her actual life, because her private life is, it's pretty scant. But because her work means so much to her, it felt kind of, I don't know, like that it made sense to me, the amount of energy that I should be putting there, like as her. I don't know if that is the most eloquent way to say that. But I think, just getting together with everybody once we also started, responding to each other's energies, that started making things clearer. And a lot of also the prep and talking to female chefs, talking to Courtney Storer, Chris' sister, who is one of the culinary producers on the show, alongside Matty too. There were just so many similarities that I felt like being a young woman in the industry and being a young woman in that industry. And so those were sort of the places that I found some understandings.
Yeah. And
can I add something to that?
Of course. Yes, please.
I want to piggyback on what I was, because I've never said I want to piggyback on something. I want
literally piggyback.
I wanted to try. Did I do that?
There you go.
But there's that thing. Like I will say that the characters were very vivid and so well written on the page. And then we can do so much research. But there's that final thing where it's like, okay, now it's time to say these words. And am I going to believe this guy, and is anyone around me going to believe it? Is the audience going to believe it? But then what happens? You look around, and I would look around our kitchen set, and I believed everyone there. And that's sort of like the reality of everyone being there together sort of help me anyways, lock in to my part. So there's like that final leap of faith. And I think that when you get to be, because we're talking about an ensemble and being with an ensemble, it is, I don't know, it makes it so much easier because you have so much other reality to ground you, or for me anyways.
Yeah. And Ayo, you touched on something, because we don't really go home with too many of the characters. I think we only see your character and maybe Carmi at home, maybe a little bit with Richie, but we don't really get a sense of their home life. Marcus
goes and gets a donut. That's that's his house.
But as actors, you have to really understand your character, and if it's not on the page, how do you do that for yourself? Lionel, how did you kind of figure out who Marcus was when maybe we didn't know exactly who he was the first couple episodes? Did you have to do some of that work just for yourself, or ask questions about that?
Yeah, I think it was easier because I think for this character, I understood what it's like to find a passion and to like get lost in that passion. Essentially, it's like someone believes. It's like Carmi and Sydney believe in him, and he has this spark for this thing. Like, oh, I'm into this thing, and they believe in him, so they kind of push him and encourage him to go down this road, and he does. He gets lost in it to a point where it comes back to bite him in the ass. But I think that to me was the entry point for me that made it easy.
Okay. Edwin, I remember when I talked to you at TCA, I even said, like, I want to know more about Ebra. Like, I want to know who this guy is. But talk about what did you have to do to figure that out for yourself?
Well, I think with me, the answers to my character, sometimes, well, as an actor, the answers I may be looking for are not necessarily found in my character. I mean, they may be found in spaces with like the interactions of other characters. So I don't just look for kind of the answers in my lines or even that through line. Is really kind of how does he respond to other people. It's very telling initially how Ibrahim and Marcus interact, that there's familiarity there, but there's a separate type of one with the way that he interacts with Atina and with Richie and with Carmi. What Christopher did really, really beautifully for me was that he just described Ibrahim as a mystery who's lived 1,000 lives. And while that's very, very short, there's so much space in there for me with the way I like to work. And so it was just about just keeping that in my head constantly. It was beautiful from the first moment that I read the script, and I was just like, I want to be quiet. And I love the fact that this character gets to be quiet, and I can allow him to kind of find me, if that makes sense. Yeah,
no, it does. And Matty, I feel like anytime Neil comes in, it's either going to elevate the fun or maybe elevate the chaos or maybe a little bit of both. How much of that did you attribute, or were you just following the dialogue and the choreography of the scene as you're kind of coming in and out?
You know, I'm word perfect, but I think, I'm just trying, honestly, I think me acting like, I don't know. I think it's a lot of both. I think it is like, I'm very nervous. It's my first time acting. The people are like, everyone here is so amazing with their time and with their thought and care around me. And I thought it was really beautiful, the amount of space that they kind of gave me. Like even I was like, do you know your word? Like, do you know your lines today? Or like, like, she's like, what are you doing today, Matty? What are you walking around getting coffees all day? Or are you going to be like ready? And I think like it was a bit of a funny, like keeping people accountable and stuff like that. And, it is that nervousness. And it's like I feel like Neil is that person. Like Neil's on the coattails of like the family business. Like, does he really need to be there? Is he really good at his job? It really, like, he's always got to, I don't know how to fix anything, like I'm not, I really don't know how to fix anything. If when the aliens come, I'm toast. I'm out. I don't know how to make I'm kind of out. So I feel like Neil's the same as me, like in a sense, but like he's there and he's a part of the family and he's a part of that place. And it's just like, he's there because he's there. It is like that thing where like that unit and that whole world is like, everyone is like meant to be there and is there because of circumstance, but as all of a sudden that whole thing is so solid and real, and like that like little microcosm and little beautiful family is love it and hate it. It's where everyone's going every day because everything's breaking every day and because everything's crap. And it's just like, I guess Neil's there and it's just like this whole thing where it is, I don't know. I'm just lucky that I'm part of the family, I guess. And I'm like the little idiot buddy and I'm just, and maybe a little bit of a love interest with Richie. I don't know. But I think it's, there's definitely some chemistry there.
I want to piggyback.
Yeah, go.
Because in the sense of like holding accountability, like Matty was always there being like, okay, like, are we chopping today? Like, what are we doing? Like, does this look real? Does this smell real? Does this feel real? Does it pass the smell test? I feel like that would be like the phrase of like the filming the first season for me. Like, does it pass the smell test? Like we would all just sort of like check with each other to be like, does this feel real? And then the other thing I would say is that Matty said one of my other favorite things during the season, like describing sort of the motley crew of everybody in the kitchen, which is like working in a kitchen is like being on a submarine. Like you have no idea who your crewmates are going to be. You have no idea what the mission of the day is going to be. But all you know is that you're together and the hatch is locked and you're underwater and you just have to like go and be together and decide if it's going to work or if it's not.
Yeah.
Can I piggyback now?
Please.
I would piggyback now because this young lady, Ayo, is just, just so many things about her. And, it's like...
Wait.
No, hang on.
Jim, ask the question.
Wait a minute. Now,
quickly.
now you know, on the subject of accountability, it was a really, really, wonderful thing, because I was always like, does this character sound like he's supposed to sound? And and I was like, damn, I don't know if my accent is slipping sometimes. And so I said to Ayo, I said, Ayo, I want you to really, really listen for me, and just make sure that my accent doesn't slip. And so we had this code word, horn, as in the Horn of Africa. because there's like Somalia, there's Ethiopia, there's Kenya, there's Daha, and so whenever it was slip, I she'd slap, I say horn. I'm like, oh, okay, gotcha. So Ayo kept everybody. When I hear her talking about what you did with Matty, she had that same thing with me. Horn.
Busybody. This is
no, you know what? It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was just really lovely. So
and these panels are not supposed to be scary, but Ayo was so nervous about what you were going to talk about.
I know, right?
Rewind.
Well, Matty, I'm going to come back to you for a second, because even if you don't know how to fix things, you do know your way around a kitchen. If people don't know about you in real life, so were you that guy outside of the actual producers who were watching people cook to make sure they were doing things right? Because it's a skill, and it looks really real from my perspective as a viewer.
Yeah, I think it's I think everyone showed up ready. Coco and everyone came ready, and I think Ayo and Jeremy and Lionel went and worked, and I think they went and worked. They really cared, and I think that's everyone people love this show, and it's kind of undeniable at this moment. And I think it's just it is the work. It's the process. It's everybody went home, everyone showed up, and showing up is really hard, I think. And I think that is the thing of in the kitchen, it's showing up is hard. Every single day, people are dealing with everything in our lives. Every single person on this panel right now probably has something at home that's going on. And I think that is the thing is we were able to put that aside and show up and do the homework and put it into the room. And I think everyone was there, and it was just an amazing thing where it's just we're doing movements. It's how is Sydney going to move through this new, how do you move confidently within this little room? She knows how. Ayo is very confident. She's incredible. Sydney is this new person. How do you move in this room with meaning? That's the whole thing, is moving with purpose, doing things that are efficient, and to do that and be able to say your lines and be able to move the way that you hold your arm. You never have your hands in your pockets. There's all these small little things, the way that you turn, the way that you give people space, the way you are so aware of everything, and it's just that's the thing, is you're hyper aware in these kitchens, or people at Sydney's level, and you are aware, and then you're around people that aren't necessarily the same awareness. And so I think there is that rubbing of shoulders on the way that we move, and I think it is that choreographed thing, but it was we're in such a small space, and on top of that, there's cameras on top of us. And and I think it was that pressure, and that little pressure cooker, and everyone was just all of a sudden you found it. And we found it really kind of it wasn't a really difficult thing. People started moving with purpose, and people were moving chaotically around them. And within that, we had our dance. And I always say that with even my cooks and my kit, you have to find your dance. You have 5-6 partners, maybe 2 partners, maybe 12 partners. Everyone needs to find their space. Everyone needs to know how to move and to help and to engage, disengage, and know when to move, when to pull, when to push. The same as the words. It's very physical. It's very movement, like watching a ballerina or a dance or a theater. It is that live play. We are in action. The same as a sports show, the same as anything. This is a moving target at all times.
Yeah. And because cooking is such a big part of all your roles, Liza, I'll start with you. What did you master in the first season that you were really impressed with yourself, that you were able to maybe do something you hadn't done, unless you're already a professional chef? But what was what was that thing for you?
Is that I have a hell of a lot to learn. And now in this, they're helping me straighten up and fly right in season 2. And so, I wasn't aware of how people who really love cooking in a professional kitchen or in a restaurant really love when it's busy. That was shocking to me, that they love the pressure of it. And, I can't, I cook for 4 people in my house. I'm freaking out. But to see that other side and lately, the last week or so, and I've also been training a little bit, mostly I'm like, I can't learn how to do these things, but to piggyback on what Matty is saying, I'm learning, I'm trying to soak up that vibe of the choreography.
Okay.
Of how to move. And this space that I'm working contra right now, which everyone says hello, Ayo from Wild Air and Contra.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. It's such a tiny kitchen that to be aware of the vibe of who's passing you, who's to the left of you, and even when you're done, how to pick up non-verbally on what someone else needs and hop in there and help them. That camaraderie, that was new to me.
Okay.
Camaraderie isn't new to me, but loving the pressure is like, really? Okay. Y'all different. Y'all are built different, but okay.
Okay. I love it. Lionel, whether I saw you kneading bread or pouring chocolate on a cake, there's a love that Marcus has for this. How was that for you to do scenes like that, where you're having to actually do these things over and over for different shots and things like that?
I mean, I love it. Well, a little bit about me is I've always loved desserts my whole life. And I don't know, I think everyone does in general, but it was cool because you had Matty there. Like it's the things where you feel a little nervous about, and Matty is there to like reassure you a little bit. He's like, no, just do this like one little thing, give you one more step, and you're like, okay, I get it. But I will say that a big thing I did learn from like going off and working at like the bakeries and stuff like that was there was a different pace that they moved at than the regular kitchen. It's kind of like cooks would go and retire in a bakery, kind of. So it's like you're still moving fast, but it's at your own pace. So I think that also helped with me in the show of knowing that like even though everyone's moving at the speed of light and it's frantic, you can move fast, but you cannot feel overstressed over here. You can just like, I guess, feel like a bit of a space cadet. But I'm jumping all over the place here. But
all right. No, that's good. Yeah, we're with you.
I forgot where I was going with this. I don't know where I was going anymore. I've lost it. And that's me.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Ebon, let me ask you about in the kitchen. Like who's better in the kitchen, Ebon or Richie?
Oh, I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I don't think you could be worse in the kitchen than Richie. I'm definitely better in the kitchen. I love to cook. I cook every day. I've got a lot of meals under my belt. Kids and, when I'm not working, I'm like, I'm like a short order cook.
Okay, I like it. Let me ask, you guys are talking a lot about just being an ensemble. You're nominated for an Ensemble award. When I see a scene that in episode 7, we're going to talk about that for a second because we have to. When there's a scene that's 18 minutes without any cuts, and it was amazing to watch, but rewatching it just now to prep for this panel, I realized it must have been such intense choreography. And can you guys talk about what you went through to plan that? Like how many times? Ayo, let me start with you. Like how many times did you guys have to do that? Because it's very intricate, especially if they're not cutting, they're just going to go and do it.
I was so nervous you're going to start with me because I'm like the worst at remembering like facts in that way. Yeah, we had a few days before, and whenever we shoot pretty efficiently, and so whenever we would have like a break, we would just like run a rehearsal, and there was like reading out loud, and a lot of just like trying to memorize the scene as the days were coming up. And then like two days before or something, we kind of like put it on its feet just to see how it felt. And then the day of, then we just sort of like went for it. And I think we did five, yeah. And
yeah, 5.
One of them had to be stopped because of just like a technical thing. But then otherwise we just sort of went for it, and I think just kind of like modulated from there. So now that all the facts are out, I think, yeah, it felt really like high pressure, but I think that lended itself to the feeling of what was going on there. And it felt for me like doing a play almost, where it's like you have to be on. There's no off. Even if you're doing something in the kitchen, like the camera work was so beautiful and frenetic. You don't know when Gary is going to be swinging around. You don't know also, like, who needs you when. So I think we all just sort of, yeah, it was go time. And that's the end of my little speech.
Okay. Anyone else want to share that day shooting that?
I didn't want to have any lines in it. I'll tell you that much. I was really adamant about that because I didn't want to fuck it up. And there was so much pressure in the, like, speaking to like the ensemble, where it's just like, I was so nervous about it because I was just like, the amount of work that went into this and the amount of care from everybody, it was like really like, everyone cares so much, and everyone has like a voice, and everyone's doing what they needed to do. And I was just like, yo, I want everyone to shine. So I was just like, yo, I want to be like in the background. And I'm like, I just walked by Carmi once, and then I'm in the background. I think I'm helping Liza flip chickens. And I just wanted to be like a thing where I wanted to get myself out. Cause I was like, if I make a stupid face, or if I do something funny and I ruin a take, I was like, everyone's working so hard. And I think it was just a beautiful thing where, like, it was like, it honestly, it was like getting ready for service. It was just like, it was that critical moment. We're capturing what a blink of an eye feels like. What does a blink of an eye feel like? All of that happens in 18 minutes. That's 10 minutes before service. And like, I've had so many moments where things go down, things happen, and then like the show has to go on. But like at this point, the show definitely didn't go on. But it's just like the aftermath, I'm sure, was even more insane than that last like 18 minutes. But it was just like, for everyone to come together on that moment, and it was like a lot of these people, like theater veterans, powerful actors. And I think it is like that thing where it is like we like Ensemble, like, like it's just proud to be here, like watching them and being a part of that just in the smallest little moment, and watching the crew like power up like to the 10th power of Ensemble is like having the synergy between the crew too is a part of that. Like it's not just us on the Zoom, it's like everybody. And like, I think like that's what really made that thing work. It was everyone was in the dance. That was when we brought everybody in fully. And I think like that was what made it really special.
Our like production team, I feel like I'm like, they do get credit, but I'm like, they don't get enough, like, because they took the kitchen from that we filmed the pilot in, rebuilt it with like to make space for camera, like matched the stains on the ceilings and the grime in the corners. But then for 7, they like took out a wall and like rebuilt it so that it could be movable for like camera. And it was just like, yeah, we were all just like dancing with each other. Evan is literally in Portugal.
I was thinking that too. I was like,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It looks like a movie. It looks like the end of the world's going to come or something.
Like before sunrise.
Right, yeah, that's the flex right there.
I was going to say, you win for best background.
Yeah,
that's background.
It's the light that I'm really going for. I only do Zoom panels at like 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'm like the Terrence Malick of Zoom.
I like it.
Really good.
What?
Really
Eben,
good.
Eben, tell me what did you remember about that day with your part in the whole choreography of that?
I mean, these guys, they really said most things. The only thing that I can add is that it is scary and there's real stakes. It feels like dangerous and every second that passes and you succeed it gets more, you've made it further. So the stakes get higher and higher and higher and higher. You don't want to like screw up. So it kind of, the screws get tightened as you're making, you start to get more nervous. Whereas oftentimes I feel like you kind of get less nervous as you get into scene and get more comfortable. This one had the opposite sort of feeling for me anyways. And so it was a very, very exciting day. I would love to work like that a lot, and everyone was so connected. And when we would finish a take, the whole stage would like erupt into applause, not just for us or anything like that, but for everybody, because there's people moving props that you can't see. And there's like, lights getting thrown around. And it was like a heroic effort. It was so cool. It was the best.
Like one of those like SNL like videos where they like are moving everything in between this, but like for 20 minutes. And then also all of us are just like blacked out, like yelling at each other in the middle of that.
Yeah,
I love it.
There's a moment, there's a moment like that like in the theater, you don't have everyone there in that way, but to like have everyone, like by the time you mount a play, everyone in the other side of the production is already gone, it's already set, but to have everyone there like that with us, and everyone's to use Matty's term earlier, doing the dance, it was just so beautiful. And coming from the theater, it was like, wow. I mean, I was a bit jealous because I didn't have as much to do, and I was like, just like watching this beauty happen in front of my eyes was just, it was kind of emotional for me. In a whole lot of ways, just like watching them and watching how this whole thing happened. It just reminded me of all that time,
Like the David Attenborough, your voice just carried us.
Well,
you guys, I have to jump off right now, and I just want to say I love you all. See you all very soon. Jim, thank you very much. Edwin, I don't want to scare you, but there's a very still jellyfish right behind you above your right shoulder.
Let me ask you this. The first season you guys kind of shot in a bubble because nobody had seen it yet. You're just kind of off in Chicago doing your thing. What's the reaction been like for all of you? Because I mean, I got excited seeing you all at TCA. So it's like, I'm sure people are recognizing you or just sharing the love on social media. What are you guys hearing once the show started airing and it's like out there? Liza, what were you hearing from fans and the audience people?
Everyone who saw it loved it or was traumatized too much by the second episode to continue.
Anyway, Lionel, what were you hearing from people?
Well, everyone kept coming up to me saying that they need to try that donut, and everyone asked about the donut, and it's like kind of crazy.
I want a donut, yeah.
Yeah, and I look at it as like, I mean, I don't know. It's been that, and it's cool. You hear some people who like connect with his passion, and they get like a little emotional talking about it. Reminded them of their like discovery and like exploring and all that stuff, and that was always cool.
Yeah, okay. I feel like the love from like chefs has been very cool and very gratifying, and that's really exciting. It is strange that it does feel like, we filmed it and like we were just like in a dirty kitchen together, and it was very beautiful. But it was like, okay, well, see you guys
around in
maybe because I feel like also for me, I felt like when we were filming it was very much a time where it was like TV that makes you want to feel good. What's our favorite feel good shows? And I was filming this. I was like, I don't know if this is feeling good. Like, I don't know, but there is a different type of like catharsis and that I feel like people have been able to connect to. And that's been nice and exciting. And I'm excited to get to go back and be with everybody and be cold and
eat hot dogs.
Many dogs. Less dogs.
How beneficial is it for all of you that you do shoot in Chicago? It's not on a soundstage in Burbank or something. What does that add to your performance or to the show? Liza, I'll start with you.
Chicago is a character as real as any one of us. And so I think that, that was brilliant of them to do it. Plus, it's only a couple hours flight from New York. So that serves me. And Yeah, I think that they Chris and Joanna and all involved just were so smart to make every part of the show as authentic as possible. And so that's a great idea. And I hope they keep.
Yeah, I think it is like one of those things where it's just like spending time in any city when you're shooting a show that's pretty specific about the city makes a difference. Like us going out Friday nights or Saturday nights with each other and seeing each other and going to museums and going to shows and just living in those cities.
Restaurants also in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think getting like it is like going back to it is like as a chef, like having like I've had so many people begrudgingly tell me it's good too, which is like the best kind of like win, where like people that like don't really fuck with me are being like, it's fucking good, Matty. And I think, sorry about swearing and cussing, but I think it is like, it is, I think it is, it is one of those things where I think it's everyone's work. It's everyone's thing is showing. And I think it is a human connection where people are feeling it. And it's like, each city has those feelings. Like a city makes people or breaks people. And I think it's just like, everyone's coming together to like live there. And it's just like, Chicago's our home. And it's, you leave it, you come back, you leave it, you come back. But Chicago's a lot of people home. And I think it's like every one of us on the show, it's just like, we got nowhere to go kind of. And so it's just like, this is what we're doing. And I think it's, it's cold in the winter and it's warm in the summer and it's windy all the time. So it's just like, it's those Great Lakes, that lake effect is real.
It's cold. It's cold.
Yeah.
I'm from the Midwest, so I know it's cold.
I feel like it was also nice though, like, well, there goes my dog. But it was nice being in a place that wasn't like New York or LA too, because we just like worked on the show. And I feel like if it was like New York, I would have been. I also do stand up, and I know myself. I'm sick in the head, and I would be like, all right, yeah, scheduling 4 shows a week while I'm filming. Awesome, or same in LA. And it was like nice to just be like, oh, right. Like I also, this deserves my focus and I have to do that. And like, this demands that in a beautiful way. But it was nice, like just also sort of like having each other.
All right. Okay, you guys, the Bear season 1 is just sitting there on Hulu. Go back and rewatch it or watch it if you haven't yet. Season 2 is coming later this year. On behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, I want to thank you for sharing your experiences, process, and the craft with your fellow performers. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.